Are they overprinting? Let me think about it. No, I don't think so. I think I think that right now they're printing close to actual demand. And Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, probably Flesh and Blood, maybe Lorcana. Um, Possibly Sorcery's pulled back. I don't know. It's I don't know. It's still in the minors, so let's leave that out. And Flesh and Blood set aside for now. So Pokemon was the first to go crazy. It had a bit of a bear market after Magic's bear market while Magic was starting to recover. And there was still this a bit of a hype wagon from the last, I guess, what you would call bubble at the end of 2021. So there's still people actively engaged in talking about Magic the Gathering and Pokemon from that time period, from the post-pandemic stuff. And there had already been an increase prior to that. So I think that demand was steadily increasing. At the very least, the thought process or the attention was still on an upswing, even if the money wasn't there, because people were scared after mid 2021 and throughout 2022. There was a lot of unknown, and there was a lot of, inflation and worries about where your finances were going to go in the future. And then when the future comes, it's never as bad as your fear, right? So people then start to think, wasn't that bad. Maybe I can start spending again. And so people start spending. And other people start investing again. And other people start collecting again. And other people, well, they've been playing the whole time, but maybe now they think, I've been watching all these videos and I've never even tried this stuff, so maybe I'll start playing. And I think that the way that Wizards points out that people churn through the game every few years, new people come in, old people leave. Maybe some of those will come back within 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. I've talked about it a lot on my channel, about me leaving in the early 2000s and coming back. And you'll actually find it's a trend amongst people around my age, whether you're talking about Alpha Investments or you're talking about Tolarian, although I think they're younger than me. But it was around that time period people really moved out of the game, and Magic the Gathering almost died, right? And Pokemon almost died. And now, instead of that kind of cycle and wave where the game almost dies, it seems to people, and they like to say that it's going to die, but really, and even in those periods, it's in a much healthier state than it was by the end of the 90s and the early 2000s. Anyway, the demand comes from new people coming in, from attention driving people towards stuff. And I think that at least up until May, most of the demand is organic. And yes, there's resellers and scalpers and people that will immediately abandon it once they lose money, can't make money, whatever. And so that's not real demand, and that's not organic demand. It's a byproduct of organic demand, but those people still can't get everything that they want, and everyone else can't get everything they want. So there's not enough to feed even, and this is my point, there's not enough stuff being made to supply the demand that isn't resellers and scalpers and that kind of stuff. Or we're just starting to meet that demand. I think if you ask in 6 months from now, are they overprinting? Are they exceeding demand? Then probably at that point, at least Pokemon or Magic the Gathering is going to exceed the organic demand, but not necessarily the reselling demand, right? And stores that sell things at a normal price to their customers are part of this organic demand. Stores that buy a whole lot of product and churn through it and then, try to find any avenue to, take their pre-orders, cancel them, and move them into the secondary market. They were part of the organic demand and then become part of the inorganic demand, the byproduct demand. And I think by about, December, maybe after December, maybe before December, there'll be a point where there's more product than the organic demand, which will start to drive prices down, and then start to concern the smarter of the resellers / scalpers / stores that are capitalizing on whatever this is. And those stores will pull back their orders. Those resellers and scalpers will move their money elsewhere to avoid what they fear is coming. And then the remainder of those resellers will stick around thinking it's a blip, or at the very least the prices won't necessarily go down and they won't really notice it. They will ignore the fact that there's a lot more out there. They can get a lot more than they could before, and they'll decide that, oh, that just means I can make more money, so I'll order more next time. And then the demand will start to erode in the player, collector, investor sphere, and more boxes will be available for those resellers, and then the price will go down because the wide variety of people that are looking for these things, their demand has eroded because they're a little upset that they weren't able to get it, so they've moved into other things possibly, or they're just waiting for when they can just normally get it, or whatever reason, and then prices will start to shrink. And then the people who weren't noticing the extra availability of product will now notice their profits starting to slim, and the smarter of those will start to move somewhere else or decide not to engage in this anymore. And this will start another chain of events of the same type of thing. And then finally, the ones who aren't paying attention, who were just in it because they saw people making free money and they don't know why. They didn't even bother to investigate. They just started doing it. They will order a whole lot of stuff, and they'll end up with a whole lot of stuff, and it'll probably be on credit cards, on lines of credit of some kind, and they need to get that money back as soon as possible. And then they'll start panicking, and that will start the snowball down the hill, and we head to MSRP, and then we head below MSRP, and we head to whatever the new floor is for these boxes. I don't think it's the old floor of Scarlet and Violet, but it might be about 5-10% above that, just because of the tariffs, the inflation, the maybe hidden price raises that Pokemon and Magic the Gathering have done. Now, Flesh and Blood, maybe they are incredibly wary of this kind of thing, and they haven't been around for a long time, but they had Monarch come out, and Tales of Aria, and Flesh and Blood 2.0, and they've only just recovered from that. And I think they are small enough that they can be agile enough that they can notice things quickly enough, and I don't think that they will turn on the hose. The supply will stay roughly the same. That's what I think Legend Story Studio will act like, and maybe some other games might clue into that, but I think almost all the other games that aren't Magic, that aren't Pokemon, that aren't Flesh and Blood, are in danger of being eradicated in 6 months to a year, to maybe upwards of a year and a half, because of this. And so, are they overprinting now? I don't think so, but I think that they're going to be overprinting in months, and that's my guess. So, let me know what you think in the comments below. Have a good day.